Hello, and welcome back to our Tools for Resilience training. This section is on trauma-informed care and how we can respond and support young people who've had difficult experiences. My name is Melissa Lanfield, and I'm the Learning Design Manager for Girl Scouts of Greater Chicago and Northwest Indiana. And I'm looking forward to talking to you about what we can do as adults, as mentors, and as troop leaders to support our Girl Scouts who've had some challenging experiences. This presentation is based on a collaboration with Ann and Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago's Center for Childhood Resilience. They're our partners in this work, and we're so glad to have them. In this part, we're going to talk about what you can do when you are working with a young person you suspect might have had difficult experiences, or even one who hasn't. Trauma-informed care is for everyone. It supports everyone and promotes resilience. We're also going to talk about you. Some of this stuff is a lot, and so taking care of you is an essential part of being a trauma-informed troop leader. So you have a young person in your troop who's sharing something difficult with you. The first thing you want to do if they disclose something to you is listen. Following their lead. They are in a moment where they are being very vulnerable, and you want to respect that. Let them share until they're done. The one exception to this is if you're in a group setting where it's not appropriate for their privacy or for the other young people for the share to continue, and we'll talk about what you can do then. But if you and your young person are in a private setting, let them talk till they're done. Don't interrupt, don't ask questions. Show them that you're interested. This is by making eye contact if it feels good for you and for them. Not everyone wants to, especially in moments of disclosure, and that's okay. Using your body language to tell them that you're interested and listening. So maybe getting down to their level if they're a young person, just being physically present with them. Minimizing distractions. So if another young person comes up to talk to you, this is not the moment, they need to wait. And staying calm, even if the person disclosing something to you isn't. We are Girl Scout leaders because we care about the people in our troop. And if they are telling us something difficult or painful has happened to them, the last thing we're going to feel is calm. And they're trusting us. And it's really important we stay calm for two reasons. The first is that they have learned that not calm adults can be unsafe adults. They're living with what they're sharing with you every day. And if they think you can't handle it, they may shut down and stop sharing with you because they don't think you're a safe person to share with or a person who can handle what they're telling you. The other reason is that if you have a strong reaction, if you get upset, they may misunderstand that reaction and think it's directed at them, that you're angry or sad or disappointed in them. So ideally, we want to contain our reactions and hold them within ourselves. But if we feel we're not able to do that, if we think our brow is furrowing, we're looking angry or sad, then the thing we want to do is be honest. Say, yeah, I am a little sad now because I don't like that somebody hurt you, but I'm not disappointed or upset or angry with you. They deserve to have what they're seeing validated, and for us not to tell them we're okay if we're not. And we want to be as okay as possible for their sake. We also want to show them we're listening by reflecting what you hear. Now, that doesn't mean check details so you're ready to make a report, ask who, what, when, where, go back over that. What it means is saying things like, it sounds like this was really scary. I'm really sorry that this happened. I care and I'm going to do everything I need to help, everything I can to help. Or, it seems like I notice your hands are clenched by your side. Do you feel angry right now? Reflecting back what you heard so they know you were listening, but not checking for details or doing some kind of interrogation or investigation. That's not your role. Your role is to support them in this moment. And once they have finished sharing with you, then you get to comfort them. The most important part of comforting is also the most important part of listening, which includes following their lead. So like we did a moment ago, noticing their hands were clenched by their sides, helping them connect their feelings with words is a really powerful tool we can provide. It's so much harder to control and manage your emotions when you don't know what they are. And especially for young people who've experienced trauma, it can be harder to connect feeling words with how they're feeling in their body. So even helping them notice your brow, your forehead is kind of scrunched up. Do you feel worried or sad? Is a very powerful tool that you can give them. You also get to give them reassurance. I'm here, I care, I'm gonna do everything I can to help. Physical contact is something that is up to you and them. Follow their lead. They'll tell you what their boundaries are through their behavior. So if you're trying to look in their face and they're looking away, they're looking down, they don't want to make eye contact, and that's okay. If they're leaning towards you, like they want to put their head on your shoulder, or they want to hug, that's okay. If you reach out your hand, like you're going to put it on their shoulder, and they shrug away, they don't want to be touched, and that's okay too. And you can always ask, can I give you a hug or put my hand on your back right now? They're going to know if that's okay with them or not. The one thing we do want to be very mindful of in that moment when we're giving comfort and support is respecting boundaries. We have to remember who we are and who we're not in this young person's life. You're here in your capacity as a troop leader, not a parent or a friend or a helping professional like a social worker, even if that's your role outside. You want to keep those boundaries in the Girl Scout role. You also want to be very mindful to not give false promises. Like, you can call me anytime, day or night. What happens if you don't answer the phone? You may have made that child physically unsafe if they were calling you in an emergency. And even if they weren't, you may have made them emotionally unsafe by showing them you're another person they can't trust. So we can't make promises we can't be sure we can keep. I promise I won't tell. It's an unsafe promise for you and for them. And it's much more hurtful to have to break a promise about keeping a secret than to tell them you can't keep secrets. For example, you can tell a young person, yes, you can tell me a secret, and I'm happy to listen. And depending on what it is, it might not be able to say a secret between just us. And then the last one, the one I always find most tempting, is telling a young person, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. We want to give comfort. We want to give support. We want it to be all right. But that's not within our power to make it all right. And we don't want to break a promise to them. We can tell them we care. We can tell them we'll be here for them as long as we can. We can tell them we'll do everything we can to support them. But we can't promise it's going to be okay, because we don't have the power to make it okay. So all of these things, when we put them together, are what we call trauma-informed care. It's the way we support a young person and ourselves. It's these three core principles: building a safe environment, creating relationships and connectedness with the young people, and supporting and teaching emotion regulation, which means essentially helping them know what they're feeling and choose when and how to express it. That also means thinking about culture and equity, our own self-care, and our own skills in our relationship to ourselves, others, and our community. This is what we do as Girl Scout leaders, but we want to do it even more intentionally and even more, period. The first piece we'll talk about is creating safety. There are all these different kinds of safety, and our Girl Scouts look to us for all of them. This is ideological safety. So this means basic needs are met. They have a coat if we're going outside and it's cold. They have access to the bathroom during a meeting. They have a snack. Then there's physical safety, following the things in safety activity checkpoints, not juggling chainsaws, things like that. Educational safety, making sure a young person is never shamed or embarrassed because of their learning level, which may be different than their peers. Teaching and modeling emotion expression, helping them know what they're feeling and helping them express it in a way that's safe for themselves and others. Social skills, being a sister to every Girl Scout is great, and sometimes it's hard to have sisters. We want to support them in those moments when it's difficult, and also support them through behavior expectations, letting them know what we'd like them to do and why, and what happens if they aren't able to follow those rules. There are a number of core ways we create safety at camp and in our regular Girl Scout meeting. Routines and rituals, things like the promise and law, friendship circle, things that Girl Scouts know they can count on when they come to our troop meeting. Our shared agreements, the things we talk about in our first meeting that are how we're going to conduct ourselves at our meetings. And it's great to review them at the start of every troop meeting. You may create shared agreements that are as simple as be safe, be kind, be a friend to other Girl Scouts. The important thing is to define them. Otherwise, you're going to have 12 kindergartners running to you to tell you they weren't kind, they wouldn't trade colored papers with me. No. But when Girl Scouts know they can count on you for their expectations and the consequences, that makes them feel safe. Same thing with agendas. Having a written agenda and posted, even something as simple as, snack, promise and law, read a Daisy adventure, build a birdhouse, do friendship circle. That helps a young person manage their emotions and their behavior. Knowing what's coming next helps them feel safer. And if they're a young person who doesn't like reading Daisy adventures, maybe they have a different learning level. Maybe they just don't like to sit still. They like to do things with their hands. Being able to look up and remind themselves that, oh, pretty soon I get to do the thing I'm super excited about, which is build a birdhouse, helps them manage their emotions and behavior. We also create safety by providing conflict resolution tools, helping them think about how their behavior affects others and how others' behavior affects them, and talk to the people who are involved and affected in a conflict. Modeling our emotion expressions, this is something we do. We can be honest. We went to Great America for an awesome trip today, and we had to wait in the line forever. Gosh, I'm really frustrated. And providing calm and cool tools, which we'll talk about more in a minute. There are also key ways to make your physical space feel safe, and that creates emotional safety. So you want the space to be comfortable and welcoming. We know we meet in spaces that are often not only ours, a church basement, a school classroom. And that may mean that we can't make sure that the temperature is right or that the lighting isn't flickering a little bit. But we also want to be aware, as trauma-informed troop leaders, that having flickering lights can be triggering for young people. So ideally, we want to avoid that. And if we can't avoid it, we want to be prepared to be understanding and provide extra support to a young person who might be wound up or tense or triggered by the lighting or the temperature or other things that might make them physically uncomfortable. We also want to refer to safety activity checkpoints, do the basics, enough adults, reasonable safety precautions, and then making the space Girl Scouty. By this, I mean having things you bring with them that helps them make the distinction. This is no longer a library, a classroom, a church basement. This is Girl Scouts. I'm safe at Girl Scouts. And if I start to feel unsafe, if I start to feel nervous, I can look up and see the Promise and Law poster you put up with blue sticky tack, and you're going to take it down when you leave. The agenda or shared agreements that you posted. I'm a big fan of lamination and blue sticky tack. You put it up when you come, you take it down when you leave. Or even just look over and see, a trefoil shaped pillow. Things like that help young people, all young people, but especially those who've experienced trauma, ground themselves in the present and recognize that this is a different and safe space. And that helps them behave differently. You also really want to have what you call a calm corner or a Zen zone. You can name it whatever you want, but it's important to have a space that's a little bit separate from the main group that has sensory objects. So things like a textured seashell or a spiky ball, things that are soft, like a stuffed animal, things like coloring or books that young people can read. The idea is that the calm corner is never a punishment. You're never sent there. It's always a space with physical tools. So things, again, that are textured, things that are smooth, things that are soft, things that can be moved, fidgets. You can find them online. And young people can use them in that calm corner if they just need to step back a little bit. They're getting upset. They need a different space for right now. Or they can bring them back to the group. If what a young person needs to be successful in participating in your group while they're reading a Daisy Adventure is to roll a ball between their palms, sure. We also want to create safety with our behavior expectations. We talked about this a little bit with shared agreements, but also consistent rules and consequences. And consequences aren't automatically a bad thing. A consequence of us doing a really good job cleaning up all year may mean that at the end, we have a pizza party. The important part, though, is that I, as a Girl Scout, know how my behavior is contributing to that outcome and have the power to affect it. That's empowering, and that's incredibly important for young people who've been disempowered. And despite everything we do to create safety, there are times when a young person is gonna get upset. They're gonna get escalated. This is true for people who've experienced trauma, and this is true for people who haven't. So some of the things you may see are nervousness, moving around a lot, fidgeting, getting angry, getting louder, talking faster, starting to get agitated, moving their hands, crossing their arms. The idea is that when we help someone calm down, we do it before they get very upset. So if you notice someone who's having trouble sitting still, or has a big scowl on their face. That's a great moment to check in with them before they get very upset. And if they do get very upset, because sometimes everyone gets upset, calm starts with you. You need to be aware of your own feelings and your face too. Are you angry? Are you frustrated with them? Are you scowling at them in a way that to them could seem threatening? And what's your body language? Are you crowding them? Are you leaning over them? Give them physical space, because that can often help to restore calm. And it's great to encourage them to use the calm corner to remind them it's there. But there are times when a young person is all the way upset. And sometimes they just need a little space. And that's okay. As long as what they're doing is not physically disruptive or unsafe for them or another young person in the group, as long as you have another adult who can support the group while you keep an eye on this young person, it's okay if what they really need is to walk, away from the group for 10 feet and just kind of scuff the ground with their sneaker. If they're headed for the door and they haven't stopped, no, they can't just go because it's unsafe for the group. But give them a little space to calm down. And if you think they're ready, if and when you think they're ready to talk, it's just like when you're sharing something difficult or they're sharing something difficult. Give them space, let them lead, make sure there's privacy. But don't engage with a power struggle with them. And if they start to get more upset when you try to talk to them, they're not ready to talk yet. And that's okay. Just give them a little more time and space. Also, things that are great to use either when a young person is getting upset, so a little bit escalated, or just in general, they help young people calm down, reset, help them start the day off on a good note or start the Girl Scout meeting off on a good note. Here are some common strategies or cool tools, and you can download more of them in the resources. Things like mindful minutes, taking 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning of your meeting to do some yoga or positive visualization or even a little meditation. Try different things because different things are right for different people and you'll need to find what's right for your group. But that's just another routine and ritual you can start off with to help everyone have a good day and everyone feel safe. Self-talk. So this is helping a young person or yourself reframe how they're thinking. Instead of having them say, oh my gosh, I can't do it, I'm so bad at this, I can't do this craft. Say, okay, it takes a little more practice for me. I know someone who used to have a child who was a perfectionist. They loved to draw, but they got very upset when their drawings weren't perfect. And they crumpled them up and threw them away. We reframed it. We said, okay, your brain's a little frustrated now. And this crumpled thing is just a frustrated brain. It's not a bad thing, it's not a mess up, it's just a frustrated brain, and that's okay. Things like deep breathing. If a child is very upset and they're young, I'm a big fan of giving them a cupcake, metaphorically, which means suddenly saying, look what I've got, it's a cupcake, and it's got candles on it, and you need to blow them out. Oh, they're wavering. Basically, it's a way of getting them to breathe deeply, especially if they're getting upset enough to hyperventilate. That's silly and playful and can kind of help stop that in its tracks. You can also do ocean or whale breathing, breathing deep in and out, so your breath sounds like an ocean, or breathing deep in and out like you're a diving whale and then coming back to the surface. You do want to be aware that deep breathing doesn't feel good for everyone. And if deep breathing doesn't feel good, That's okay. A great alternative is body grounding. It has some of the same effects as deep breathing. And body grounding can be things like slowly tracing your fingers of one hand with the other, or rubbing your thumb and forefinger slowly together. It helps pull a young person back into their body and remind them that they are in a time and place where they are safe. Physical movement is also a great way to help calm down and reset the mind and body. If you have a young person who's getting upset, maybe this is a good time before they get really upset to have a dance party with everybody. Move their body, shake it out. And then, of course, you have your physical cool tools, the things that are in your calm corner that young people can use to calm down and have access whenever they need or want them. Those are things we do to create safety, that first big bucket of trauma-informed care. The second big bucket is relationships. We talked about how in the first module, relationships can cause harm and also be a source of healing. Your connection with the young people in your troop is huge. We know that having one caring adult in their lives can completely change life outcomes. They have that because they have you. So be there for them and yourself. Have one-on-one conversations. Find out what they're excited by. Give them leadership roles. And this is especially true if this is a young person who's struggling or who you're struggling with. Let them find a way to shine. Listen to their behavior. If they like to be up and moving around, great. You found the person who's in charge of passing out of supplies. Help them develop their skills and talents. It lets you connect with them and lets them grow and become leaders. There's also a tool in the resources section that helps you keep an eye on your relationship with each of the girls in your troop. It's a simple chart, but you may have a scout who's quiet, who doesn't talk. And if you don't do a little check-in to say, hey, where am I in my relationship with each girl in my troop? Am I building my relationship? It's in a good place. Am I just maintaining it? Or we've had some challenges. Am I restoring my relationship? It's easy for someone to fall through the cracks, either because they're low key and very well behaved, or really wound up. And you guys are having a challenging, maybe even some conflict in your relationship. You don't want to let them fall through the cracks. And then there's showing young people how they can manage their emotions. This is a big part of helping everyone succeed and thrive, but especially those who've experienced trauma. Trauma affects your brain, and one of the ways it can is by making it harder to recognize feelings. It is great to have something like an emoji chart, which is just, the pictures of emojis and the word under it that matches it. You might not have the words for how you're feeling, but you generally know which big yellow smiley face feels like, or frowny face feels like you today. Think about if you were in a haunted house. You may jump and scream and get big and loud when you had no intention of doing that. For young people who've experienced trauma, their bodies can be a little bit like a haunted house. And helping them recognize what they're feeling, having a guide like you who can say, your heart is pounding right now, and that may make your body feel really upset. But it's because the scary music is making your heart pound. And if you take deep breaths, you can slow it down. You can be a support and a guide for these young people. You can support them in recognizing what they're feeling and using tools to help manage it. Their brains can get stuck in danger overdrive, fight, flight, freeze, or faint. And having you to help them recognize their emotions and manage them when they're expressed is huge for them. So we're gonna reflect here for a minute. What are you already doing in your troop meetings that are trauma informed? Maybe you have some sensory objects that the young people can access. Maybe you say the promise and law every time, so you have a routine. Maybe you have shared agreements. But are there things you could add? Things like a written agenda, or some objects, or a calm corner. Take a minute and think about what you're doing that already is trauma informed and what you could add to make it even more so. When you're ready, restart the video for our last few slides. So what can we do? We talked about all these difficult experiences. How does this tie to us? The good news is that resilience and recovery are possible. A traumatized brain is like an injured muscle. If you've ever hurt yourself and had to do physical therapy, rehab, you know that the first 50 times you go, they have you do small exercises and it seems like it's not making a difference. But it does. Over time, your body recovers, it gains more strength, and those repetitions give you back skills you had and help you gain new skills. It takes practice and patience and repetition to heal. Not everyone exposed to difficult experiences will develop a traumatic reaction. And even those who do, with your support, can and will heal. You may have to show them you are safe 50 times in small ways, just like you had to do those exercises in physical therapy. But if you're patient and you stick with it and you stick with them, how you react makes a big difference, and practice makes progress. They can heal and you can be a part of that. Because just like there was research that told us how common adverse childhood experiences are, there's research that tells us having just one caring adult in a young person's life can completely change its trajectory. It helps them heal. It helps affect how their life turns out. And we know every girl, every child in Girl Scouts has at least one caring adult. I'm talking to them. It's you. And that's a lot. Being a troop leader, being a part of Girl Scouts, it also means focusing on you. You can't take care of anybody or support anybody if you're not supporting yourself. You've got to focus on those skills that we're working on with the girls, our relationships with ourselves, our community, and others in our lives. Why do we want to actively work on them? Because it makes us happier and healthier, less burned out, more patient, having better communication and relationships. And when you do better, so do the people in your troop. And it's especially important to take care of yourself because your troop members aren't the only ones walking in with an invisible backpack of experiences. You are too. You have an invisible suitcase, just like they have an invisible backpack that has your beliefs about yourself, about others, and the world. And we hope being part of Girl Scouts is an amazing, positive experience. But we also recognize it can be a lot sometimes. And when it feels like a lot, that's when self-care is so key. What do you do when you feel like you don't have any time for self-care? You go back to the basics. ABCs, baby. The ABCs of self-care. Awareness, checking in with yourself. How do you feel in your mind, in your body? Are you acting how you want to act? If you just yelled at your partner, your dog, and a young person in your household, you may be feeling a little bit stressed. Okay, you're aware now. Then what? You seek balance. Balance between different types of activities, between Girl Scouts, between the rest of life, between everything you're doing. And you seek connection. We talked about how relationships can be healing. They can be healing for you too. Connections with other troop members, connections with your family, with your faith, if that's right for you. Even just taking time to connect with yourself. You become aware of how you're doing. You adjust the balance to hopefully do better, and you lean on your connections for strength. And we at Girl Scouts are one of your connections. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, for being here to support yourselves and the people in your troop and your Girl Scout community. There is a survey that asks about your experience with this course in the next module. You need to complete it to complete this course. We are so glad you took the time to be here for yourself and the people that you care about, including your Girl Scouts. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.